Hi, today we are talking with a new friend of ours who is running an Airbnb outside of San Diego. And the exciting thing to me is she has a pretty large piece of land that she put a trailer on for people to rent on Airbnb. And I always think that's a really interesting idea because there are other people that have either small farms or, big pieces of land in the country. And that's really like a great way to start an Airbnb business if you have that kind of it's room. So anyway, let's just get into it. How you doing, Tricia?
Hi there. It's so nice to meet you guys. I feel like I know you from listening to all of your podcasts.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm glad you reached out and we could talk. And so I thought maybe we just start with this. Tell us about It's Your Piece of Land.
Sure. We are on a 4-acre organic ranch. We are exactly 18 miles from Temecula wine country, and then we're also just 15 miles from Oceanside Beach. So we're in a really centrally located space of land and 45 minutes north of downtown San Diego and 45 minutes south of Orange County, an hour and a half from LA and an hour and 45 from Palm Springs.
That's interesting to hear because it is about where you are. So that's a great location.
Yeah, it really is. When we first started the Airbnb, we weren't sure whether people would, respond to it. But so many of our guests are coming from LA. I would say that 95% of our guests are from LA County, just wanting to get away for the weekend.
See, that's interesting. Yeah, we're about an hour and a half away from Washington, its capital, and I would say 80% of the people that come and stay are just people it's wanting to come for a weekend, kind of it's getaway. So that's smart.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. So 4 acres. I grew up in a city. And our house is probably on like an eighth of an acre, a piece of land. Where we live now, we're on 1 acre, and it feels big. So 4 acres is a pretty big piece of land.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, right. But it's fun work. I love it. We have quite a few animals, a menagerie of animals, if you will. So they take up a big portion of the land, but. The reason that I had the idea was that we could put the trailer on a spot of land that was secluded from our house so that the guests had privacy and that they could still see the animals. And it worked out that it was in the perfect spot.
See, I love that too, because, there might be people hearing this that might even actually have small farms where 4 acres would seem small. They may have a couple hundred acres. I love that idea because, you can put people kind of away from it's your own home, so they get the benefit of being kind of by themselves, but also you have the benefit of not having people like right on top of you.
Yes, it's very private. That's the number one thing that people have asked me. They've said, oh gosh, doesn't it feel funny having people on your property? And honestly, I tuck them in and I give them their petting zoo tour at some point, and then that comes with the stay, and then I just don't see them again. I mean, it's really interesting to me. So it's been a hoot because we really don't see each other interact. So.
Well, I do want to get into the process of how you deal with people, but first, I wanted to talk about its motivation because I think that's important. You said that you have a job, but you sometimes get burnt out, and kind of Airbnb was a way to kind of solve not being burnt out by your job.
Yes, absolutely. I am a wedding photographer. My husband and I both run the business together, and we've been doing that for 10 years. We shoot 30 plus weddings a year.
Whoa.
And yeah. So during our busy season, it gets a little crazy. We always say we could write a book. I added it up one year, and I edit 180,000 images per season. So yeah, burnout, as an artist, burnout is really important to avoid because and I'm an entrepreneur. I love passive streams of income. So I was really interested in doing something that could kind of alleviate that, and we could perhaps cut our weddings in half so that we can pick and choose a little bit more. My husband has a full-time job on top of the weddings. So I really wanted to be able to take some time off during the summer and enjoy our property. Because what was happening is, as our business was growing and we were getting more popular and winning awards and all of that great things that you hope for, all of a sudden we just weren't having a life and enjoying our property. So Airbnb gave us an opportunity to bring some passive income in, and it's just been really fun. I'm so thankful that we did it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been self-employed for 10, 11 years now, and it's true. I mean, that's the thing about being self-employed. You have to be careful of burnout because, we end up sometimes, especially starting out, taking as much work as we can because we're always afraid it's going to dry up, and then you just get stressed out, and then it's just like, why am I even doing this? It's better just to pick up a paycheck and work for somebody else.
Yeah, everyone asks me that all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, you work so hard. And other people think, oh, it must be nice to own your own business. I bet, you get to do whatever you want. And definitely when you own your own business, you work incredibly, incredibly hard. And there's really no days off. But I wouldn't change it for anything because it is great. And it's that feeling of satisfaction. So, starting one more little business on the side was an idea that as we grow older, we can continue to kind of phase out of one business and have another one established. And I think that's really important.
I mean, you just took the words out of our mouth. I mean, that's exactly what we've been thinking too, is that with our Airbnb, and then we just bought this other place that we're trying to get going. So as we get older, we can move more towards this passive income. I mean, I wouldn't say Airbnb is totally passive, but
right.
But much more passive than being a wedding photographer, doing what we do. That's and that's what you have to think about when it's you're self-employed, because
right.
There is no
401.
Yeah, there's no 401k, there's no pension, there's no it's safety net. I mean, we have to think about that on our own.
Yeah. When I worked in the corporate world for 10 years, I worked in cosmetics. And when I left, I cashed out my pension and my 401 to start my wedding business. And so, that was a big risk, and it definitely paid off. But now I'm just thinking smarter and saying, okay, what is the next step that we're going to do? And we're definitely going to add one more rental property here, or one more rental space here on the property. And then we also might buy something down at the beach as well.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
So what was the, final motivation to actually start, an Airbnb? Like, what was its process? Like, you had the idea, and then what happens after that?
Well, I absolutely love Airbnb. My husband is a triathlete and I'm a cyclist. And so when we travel for races, we've always stayed in Airbnbs, and we've always tried to support local business. And so the concept of it, I watched it grow. I listened to the TED Talks when they first started. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, if I could have invested in that, that would have been great. We all wouldn't be having this conversation.
Seriously.
But I just think it's the greatest concept that someone can use their land or their space to actually produce income. And so originally we bought a 38-foot RV with a good friend of ours who's a private chef, and we had this great idea that he would use it in the summer and we would use it in the winter, and we were all excited and we were going to put it on our property. And we, as we live in the country. Well, the RV itself could not get up our private road. It was too big. So on her maiden voyage home, she got stuck and literally had to rethink that and figure out a way. And by that time, I was obsessed with, running this Airbnb out of a trailer, because I had done all this research, and there's several of them in our area that are taking advantage of the fact that we live so near the beach and we live so near wine country. And again, these trailers are just sitting on people's property. Everyone thinks, oh, okay, they're going to rent the trailer and drive it somewhere. No, people are just staying in the trailer. So at that point, I began the search again to get something smaller, and thought about going with an Airstream. And I absolutely love anything retro, and I love Airstreams. They're just so costly. So I thought, well, what if this doesn't work? I mean, what if, we invest a huge amount of money and it doesn't work? And so we found Trixie, and she's actually sold from the Airstream company, but she's a retro inspired trailer with all of the benefits of a new trailer. I mean, she has USB plugs and a flat screen TV and anything that you could want. So once we found her and made sure that she could get up the driveway, we began the process of finding a pad that where she could sit and the guests could get to. And so we added a driveway going down to the trailer and really thought about, okay, if we were coming on someone's property, how would we feel? How would we get there? So we really thought all of that out, and that was the next process.
So you were a customer first, and then
Yes.
then it became a host, and that's just like us. We would travel for work, and we would enjoy staying in Airbnbs. And just to be clear, I mean, this podcast isn't specifically about Airbnb; it's more about as renting. We just seem to find that Airbnb seems to be the best site, kind of attracts the best kind of people. We're also on VRBO and I think maybe another one, but really most of our business comes from Airbnb. Are you on other sites too, or just mainly Airbnb?
No, I did a little bit of research, actually, from listening to a couple of other guests that you had on, and I really don't, none of those other sites have really been successful for trailers. It's really been a whole house. So my mom actually has a casita here on the property as well, and she winters in Florida. So we're going to put hers on Airbnb and try some other places, HomeAway and some other places as well. So we'll let you know how that goes this winter.
I don't know that a word. Is that a house or a trailer?
Oh, casita is it's a California word. It's a guest house.
Ah, a guest house. Cool.
Yeah, large guest house. So
when you say trailer in Airbnb, I'm definitely one of those people that, like, I look at people who rent trailers on Airbnb and I just start, like normally I look at it and it's like real funky and I just think like, I don't want to stay there. But I look at your picture, and we'll put a link to it on the blog. I mean, it looks beautiful. I mean, it's like you said, it's a new trailer. I mean, it looks awesome.
Yeah, I was really, really picky about that because, I don't camp. I definitely glamp. I wanted everything to be as luxurious as possible. And, my husband would just shake his head when I was buying 600 thread organic cotton sheets and, not just a Tempur-Pedic mattress cover, but then another pillow on top of that. And really, but I just wanted it to stay. When I used to be an executive and I traveled, even when I stayed at the nicest hotels, I really wanted sheets and towels, and little things were really important to me. So I wanted it to be that way when they stayed in the trailer as well. I definitely wanted it to be glamping, not camping.
And glamping, can you tell people that word in case they don't know?
Sure. Glamping is a new term where whether it's on site somewhere and it's you drive to that location, and again, you're staying not in a tent, but in a bed that's on a raised platform in a tent, maybe in Yosemite. And the company has already stocked your refrigerator and there's nothing that you need. And so that's really kind of a term that's popped up. And sometimes, the term will get misconstrued in a sense where you'll pull up the word glamping and it's, in the middle of Joshua Tree and it's an old camper and it's, like you said, a little bit funky. But I was really picky about the bathroom. I wanted it to be really big and spacious. I wanted, a woman to be able to do her hair and makeup in there. And a lot of campers are really, really cramped. And so that was important to me. There's full-size closets so you can hang your clothes. I mean, it's just all the things that you would look for. And truthfully, a lot of our clients have been saying that they're interested in tiny house living. And so that's why they wanted to stay in a camper for a weekend to see if they could do that, kind of see the space constraints and if that worked for them. So it's been really interesting to talk to people and say, why did you choose this? And when I do interact with the guests, I really ask them those kind of questions so that I can see as if we build something else, what they're looking for.
So again, why did you choose to buy a new trailer versus put a concrete pad or just, build a small cabin instead? Is it cost or?
Yeah, it was cost. So that trailer was 22,000 out the door.
Wow.
And yeah. So, I mean, everything. So I thought that that would be a great way to dive into Airbnb and make sure that it worked again.
Yep.
And also it would be something that we could use. So we travel a lot for work. And I thought we could cruise up to weddings in that cool vintage trailer and spend the night. But she's rented out every weekend, so we haven't been able to use it.
And I guess that's a smart thing too, is that if it didn't work out, you could, get rid of the trailer. I'm sure someone would buy it. So
absolutely, yeah. And so because of its colors, it's turquoise and white. When we did camp with it, a lot of people would stop us and say, "Oh, we've never seen that one before. Can we see the inside of it?" And so I knew it was going to be popular just because, it was cute. So, hey,
cool.
It's got to be stylish if you're going to be camping.
So I'm just curious. I mean, gets a bit technical, but I mean, how did you guys do hookups like septic and water and all that?
At first, we used to have to pull her off property every time because, again, we weren't sure how it was going to be worked out. The water and the electricity is hooked up to our house.
Got it.
So we just have an extra long cord and everything. However, we did build her its own septic system.
Yep.
So now she's permanently affixed. I mean, it can still be moved off the property, but once we found out after a month and we knew that we were getting consistent bookings every single weekend, we were like, okay, this is it. We've got to commit now. So we literally invested into a septic system.
Cool. And how expensive had that been? Like 6,000 or?
It was, but it's about 1,000. I would say 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean, there's definitely challenges that come. We're exactly the right amount away from the home, too, that our Wi-Fi still works and we're able to, connect to Dish Network. However, we've thought about putting solar on the top of her, or just other things. But again, there's a bunch of campers out there that don't have any Wi-Fi or don't have television. And while a lot of our guests have gone off the grid, I've had guests who have checked in that have brought adult coloring books and games and cards and just gone old school. A lot of people have come here and worked, and we're getting more and more people that are checking in during the week as well. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. That's been a new trend. Yeah, we just started 1-day rentals for during the week. It's still 2-day on the weekend. Yep. But I did try 1 day, and we've been getting quite a few bookings during the week as well.
So, I mean, people that just are coming up to do some work, like they just want to write or something, do a project.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I always just shake my head. I'm like, okay. Yeah. A couple came last week, and they went skydiving. They got a Groupon for skydiving in Oceanside, so they went skydiving.
Yeah, we just had a couple come down and stay it's New York, so they drove 6 hours. They rented our place for 3 nights, and they work for a magazine, and they just had to do some kind of project, and they wanted a quiet place, so it was like perfect, So I totally agree that Wi-Fi to me is like a necessity. And
yes.
I mean, I would never stay in a place that didn't have a Wi-Fi personally. But,
we, one of the reasons why I was such a stickler on that is, again, being in the wedding industry, we've shot at locations that don't have Wi-Fi and your phone doesn't work. Your phone reception is really spotty. And I see the way that guests react to it. I mean, they just lose their mind. So I was like, okay, we have to have this.
Yeah.
So,
all right, so let's get into, if you thought it through, if you did the research, if you bought the trailer, what was your first guest like, and how did you think through the process for them coming to get the key? I mean, all that stuff.
Well, again, I mean, listening to all the podcasts and knowing what to expect, that was a good thing, But when you first list it, you think, it goes live, and you're like, okay, checking your phone to make sure it's working because you think it's going to happen right away. And I would say it took about a week. And our first guest was actually one of the rare guests who was not from California. She was from New York. And she was traveling California to figure out where she wanted to stay. And so we have a pig. He's a not so many pig. And in our house rules, it says not to feed him. And everybody signs off on the house rules. Well, she fed him and she absolutely loved him. And he kind of nudged her with his snout and his tusk kind of bumped her. And so she got a cut. Well, then she went to the emergency room when she left. She just wanted to have it checked, or urgent care, I'm sorry. And Airbnb shut me down.
What?
Shut me down. Because I wrote to them and I said, I'm not sure what to do about this. Do I have to file an incident report? Again, I came from the corporate world, so I wasn't sure. And they shut me down for the day. And I was like, no. And then they got back to me and they said I just needed to put some more signs up that said, please don't feed the animals without me present.
Right.
So I did that and everything, and they put me back up right away within a day.
I mean, that's pretty, that must have been kind of scary that being the first guest experience something, like that's like, oh no, like this is not going to work.
I know. Yeah. My poor husband, he was like, no, the pig's got to go. Yeah. But now when there are guests here, I just lock him in the chicken coop because it's a really big chicken coop. So it's fine. And none of the other animals are out. So that's not a problem. But he's a free range pig. So he was always just, roaming the property. So poor guy's on lockdown.
And how big of a pig is this? Like 100 pounds? Well,
he was a teacup pig when we got him. He was 35 pounds, and now he weighs about 200 pounds.
Holy moly.
Yes.
Man.
So, yeah, he's free range, and he just cruises around the property and eats whatever he wants, and he just got bigger and bigger. So, there's a picture of him on the website.
And is it true that pigs are as smart as dogs or smart?
They are so smart, and that's why I have to put him away, because he has figured out that Airbnb guests equal garbage and people feed, because he's just so cute and people want to take selfies with him and pictures and, so I let people take pictures with him if I'm there, but it's just not a good idea if I'm not. So.
Now, my partner will argue it's with me on this point, but, I always say with Airbnb, I feel like much of the work is done up front. It's like you talked about, getting the trailer, buying everything, you're getting electronics figured out. And then when you start to rent, it's more about just tweaking your process. I mean, does that seem right to you?
Yeah. And I run into this in the wedding business as well, is that people, some people naturally come from the hospitality standpoint and some people don't. And so with the first couple of guests, it was really important that I read their reviews and see what they like, because originally we thought about giving a bottle of wine because we're in wine country, but instead we did, the organic eggs, and everybody loved that. And everybody wrote that in their reviews and they were so thankful for that. And I was like, okay, so this is, the way that we were going to go. And I knew that I wanted to give a petting zoo tour, but I wasn't sure, would people want to do that? And we had a movie editor come down from LA, and he was like, when can we get our tour? So, it's really about taking what people, they'll tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they like, for sure. So that's why I've been kind of asking our guests, because we're going to add on either a tiny house or a yurt. Yep. And so I've been kind of asking them, hey, which one would you stay in? And kind of getting their feedback. Yep. So once we got a couple of reviews, that was the essential part of it. And then we were able to raise our prices. And then now we just get inquiries constantly. So it's great.
I mean, I love it's what you say about, it really is about hospitality, and anyone getting into this, if they just think like they're just renting a piece of property and there's going to be no communication and there's going to be lots of rules and they always have to be followed. I mean, they're just getting in the wrong business. I find that people that come and stay at an Airbnb place, they want, for the most part, they want interaction, they want stories, they want, something special. They don't want to just feel like they're staying at a hotel. Some people do, but I find like most people are that way.
Yes, absolutely. When I edit, I used to watch that show, Hotel Impossible.
I love that show.
I know. I love that show. And I would look at some of the things that he pointed out. And, again, from when I used to travel, it used to send me through the roof when there were hairs on the pillows.
Yep.
Just through the roof.
Yeah.
And so I knew that when I cleaned my place, and I clean it myself, that was a big thing for me. Coffee grounds in the sink, things that were really, really important to me that I wanted my guests to walk into and feel like it was absolutely spotless. And I will tell you that the guests leave that place, they take care of it.
Yep.
I mean, that was another worry for me. And one of the reasons why I didn't invest in something too expensive, because I was like, okay, are people going to trash this? But they definitely, when they meet you, they want to take care of your place.
Yep. We
have a journal there, and everyone writes me a note and says thank you. And I just think that that's so cool.
This is just a hypothesis of mine, since we only have, it's one place that we rent. But it's like you, we really focus on details, try to make it very nice. And I think when people walk into a place that's very nice, they want to leave it very nice. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we were to really cheap out and like kind of just go to Goodwill and just put a bunch of junk out, I think people then treat it that way. And so that's just my hypothesis,
No, and that was one of the things that I listened to on your podcast, because as you were going through the process of buying your second place, I was like, good for them, good for taking the time to make it nice, to make it different, because anyone can stay in a hotel, but they want to stay in someone's house or someone's space. And, Airbnb has a great commercial right now about that, and they're doing more and more marketing going towards that place. And when people have inquired with me to ask, because we don't do instant book just because it is on our property. And I don't know when I'm going to be at a wedding, so I can't have somebody, do an instant book for that day.
Right.
But people have said, we really want to stay somewhere unique. And, maybe this is their first Airbnb experience or something like that. And so I like the fact that they tell you why they're staying there. It's really important to me. I like to get those details.
Yep.
So we have 2 women that are coming in on the 30th, and she was so cute. She said, we just want to get away from our kids. And they live only like 30 minutes away. Yeah. But they were just completely honest. And they said, we just want to hang out and drink wine and go hiking.
Yep.
Cool. I was like, all right.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for people hearing this that might not know what those terms are. So like on Airbnb, you can either have people write to you and ask you per admission to book certain dates, and then you can ask them its questions and then approve it. Or you can turn on Instabook, which means you set some guidelines, and then people can instantly book just like they do a hotel. So either way, you can turn that on as a host.
And are you guys doing Instant Book?
So we didn't do it at first because it's like we wanted to make sure we kind of had a conversation with each and every person. But honestly, after about 6 months, we just turned on Instabook, and it's been no problem. And I would probably say at least half of the people that book just do it Instabook. And, Airbnb they give you the ability to cancel people if they have booked under the wrong circumstances, like they're bringing more people than if you allow, or if you don't feel good about it. But so it's good for us.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. It's something that I may try as wedding season slows down and I'm home more, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and also we're renting a place that's not our home. So
right.
I can understand why, it's good to have that barrier. And the other thing you were talking about, I find that guests read everything, or at least our guests do. So that's why when I'm renting on Airbnb and people have pictures and then they just have like a little tiny paragraph about their place, I think that's so crazy. We have a nice long kind of story. We explain everything that's going on in the area. And I am always surprised when we check people in. People will sometimes mention things that are very deep inside of that text because they're interested. They want to hear all of those details and where we say they should go.
Yes, I agree. And it's a good point to other Airbnb listers or even people that have something on Craigslist to go back and look at your listing every couple of months because, things may have changed in the area. Yeah. And, I had a note that when I first started it, because I thought we were going to rent it out so that people could take it to the beach as well for a separate fee. And I just had to take that off because now it's permanently affixed there. So, we can't do that anymore. But I forgot that was on the listing. But yeah, definitely people read about you. The sweetest couple from Utah and their kids came in last week, and they knew that I was a photographer, and they booked me to do a session with them on the farm. Wow. So that was really fun, to be able to do that morning before they checked out. And their little girl put matching ribbons in the pony's hair and her hair. And it was a really cool experience for sure. Cool. Yeah.
So how long have you guys had that place up on Airbnb?
We had our first booking, the pig incident, on May 17th.
Oh, wow. So it's only been a month or so.
No, you know what? I'm so sorry. March
17th. Okay.
Yes.
So 3 months.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we we just had our first complete month. July is completely booked every single weekend, and so we're just thrilled.
That's incredible. So so is it mainly just on a weekend? So are we talking like 15 nights a month?
So it's been averaging 15 to 18, but for July it will be higher because, like I said, 2 weeks ago was just when I opened it up to one night rentals. Cool. Before, I didn't think that it was going to be worth the hassle, but I timed myself one day, and it doesn't take very long to clean it if I clean it and that's another thing I learned on your podcast, which was really great, is when you clean a rental, you clean it differently than you clean your house. You have to do it in a way that makes, sense. So now I have my method down and everything. And so it doesn't take long to clean it, but I needed to make sure, I had to get a handle on all that. I had to have 3 sets of sheets and 3 sets of pillows and, bath mats and things like that so that I could turn it over really quickly. And when I first started, I just wasn't ready for that. But now I've got it all down to a system. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think even a year and a half later, we're still kind of tweaking our process and kind of building out, I guess, infrastructure where and anytime we're out in the wide world, it's, if we ever see a deal on sheets or cleaning stuff, we're always buying that stuff, kind of hoarding it,
Yes, absolutely. We have reverse osmosis water here on the farm, and it's absolutely delicious. And so what I do, because it is a trailer, is I fill up the refrigerator with these really cool glass bottles that you see at restaurants now, but I buy them at Marshall's. And I'll do 3 of them plain, and then I'll do 2 of them organic lemon and mint. So that when the client checks in, there's nothing, when you go to a hotel and they're going to charge you $5 for a bottle of Voss. Yep. It's the worst.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I want my clients to be able to, or my guests to check in and be able to sit under that tree and have a nice, fresh water with some lemon in it and relax. So so now whenever I see those glass bottles, though, I'm always picking them up.
Now, in your area, do you have to get like a license to do this and pay local taxes, or is it kind of a gray area? Or
no, nothing yet. Nope. And we are in wine country. Well, we're in San Diego County. And then wine country is in Riverside County, so we're right outside of the 2 of them. But nothing yet. I mean, I hope that we don't, because I'd like to be able to keep our prices reasonable. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Yep, see how it goes. Mm-hmm. So, you guys have been renting this for 3 months, and now you're thinking about doing a second rental. I mean, are you going to give it yourself like a year before you actually invest in a second place, or?
No, I would say that we will have our second place within 6 months. Wow. We're just really trying to decide between a tiny house, a really unique tiny house that kind of matches the property, and a yurt. The thing about Trixie is she's retro with a little bit of boho mixed in. And so I really like that idea for a yurt. But again, I want the guests to be comfortable. And so, there's just something nice about a tiny house because it really does have all of your appliances and all of that. So I've just been doing research on both, and we'll see what happens. We've got the space. We've got 2 pads ready to go. We just have to kind of pull the trigger on that.
Plus, it seems like a house would be more long-term. I don't know how long a yurt, I assume it's like a canvas or something, how long it would last, but maybe it's long-lasting.
Yeah. And I mean, they're really trendy right now on Airbnb. I mean, I'll sit in bed at night and kind of look. And that's another, that's advice that I give to people that are thinking about doing Airbnb is look at your comps. I mean, look
Yep.
at, how many Airstreams are out there, how many yurts, how many tiny houses, and look at the ones that are, in people's wish list or have been rented several times, and that's what I really did a lot of research in this area because we are in the country. I was like, is anybody going to want to come here?
Yep.
So people that were within 10 to 15 miles away, I did the math and I looked at how many reviews they had. And I said to my husband, I was like, we can do this.
I mean,
work.
I love to hear that. I don't, we'll get emails from people like, I've been thinking about it, but is anyone going to rent? It's my place. And I'm like, we live in the best time possible. You just have to do a search, like put in your zip code, and just see if anyone else is renting. And you can even look at people's calendars. I mean, it's like it's so transparent. It's so easy. And then if for some reason some people aren't renting in at your area, then you have to do a little bit more of a risk assessment, like why people would come. But for the most part, I feel at this point that there's enough info out there that will give you a good kind of benchmark.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, is that I was able to look at people even with places that weren't as nice as Trixie, even just, or 10 times nicer that were renting for $700 a night. Right. Because it's not our house, we could rent at any time. So that was the thing, is that there were some places in the area that were renting, and we're also 11 miles away from a major casino. So people like that as well. So people tend to check in and they'll go the first day, they'll relax. The second day, they'll go to wine country. The third day, they'll go to the ocean. And if they are staying one more day, they'll go to the casino.
Yep.
So we kind of have it all figured out. And I made little maps for them to get to local hikes.
Yep.
And then currently I'm networking with 2 wineries and restaurants to give coupon codes so that if they did go to that winery, they'd get a discount or 2-for-1 tastings and things. And, that's where people just kind of need, because when you get someplace, you can Google or you can Yelp, but again, that's what hosting is all about, is letting people know, oh, this place has gluten-free pasta, or this place has my favorite wine. So
that's when it's about hospitality, and we always have guests are asking us, where do I go eat? Tell me where I should go hiking, and so I need to have an answer for all that stuff.
Yes.
So about the coupons, I've always thought about that, I mean, Hotel Impossible is all about that, like,
right.
Making partnerships with a local tourist stuff. How are you approaching people? You just, walk in and tell them what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, because we live in a smaller town, Fallbrook is the avocado capital of the world. It's just a fact. Right. But and there's also, I found a local winery that I didn't even know about that's only 7 miles away from us. So it's not all the way in wine country. And I thought how great that would be, because you don't want to get out of your car after you just drove and get back in your car and drive further. So if they could Uber to this local winery and they got, some sort of coupon code and it was very close, I think I would do that my first day. And then after that, then go to a nice Italian restaurant for dinner. So that's the process, is just doing breakfast, a winery, and dinner so that people could, and I would just make something and they would have either a code that they gave them or an actual coupon book.
Nice.
But when we checked into our hotel in Ojai for the wedding last week, they had a winery that had 2-for-1 tastings. And of course, that's where we went.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. So
now, as far as prices go, so how much are you currently having people pay?
During the weekend, it's $75 to $81 a night. Plus, I was at a $25 cleaning fee. I actually dropped it because I timed myself, and it took about 15 minutes to 19 minutes to clean, so I dropped down my cleaning fee.
Nice. Yep.
And the reason why I do a cleaning fee is it actually helps that all of our hens are organic, non-GMO, so their feed is really expensive. So it helps because I do provide the client with eggs each day. So it just kind of offsets that.
Yeah. And then how expensive is it on a weeknight?
I just recently tried the pricing system through Airbnb, and I set it so that it would drop down like on a Monday or Tuesday automatically. So it's been averaging 55 plus the cleaning fee, and we haven't had a problem.
Gotcha. We have kind of our prices locked in, and I always look at Airbnb. They have that system, and when I do its preview, sometimes their prices seem really low. I'm just like, I bet someone might book that, but I'd never rent it that low,
Yeah, and what I found is then too, you get a little bit of a funkier guest if you go below a certain amount, and so you can put on there though you won't go below a certain. So I put not to go below 55, but it'll automatically drop it for me.
Oh, so it's not like you have to choose exactly. It's what they say. You can give them a bottom, and they'll go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it'll move it up and down for you during the week.
I gotta look into that. I don't know if that's a new thing. It seemed to me like it was always either on or off. So that's interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
They change it a lot. I like to go in there because, again, I work from home, so I'm always going in there and looking at the calendar. And I like to look at the stats and see who's looking at the property and all that stuff.
I mean, and I'll just, go over what you just said. I find that if you make your place really nice and charge, a strong price for a nice place, I feel that kind of limits the kind of people that are going to come and, smoke a lot of pot and drink and party and,
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that we have had not one single bad guest. And I mean, knock on wood, but everyone and
it may happen, but,
right. But it's been, a lot of health people, because my profile says that we're cyclists and that we can let them know where the trails are. There's been a lot of people that have brought them their bikes or wanted to hike. And I think those people tend to just kind of want to come and go off the grid for the weekend. And they're not, it's been so nice. It's been really fun. I really like it.
So if you give people eggs, I'm assuming people cook a lot. I mean, are people eating in most of their meals?
No, they usually just eat in for their breakfast. So the camper comes with, fry pans, a toaster, butter, olive oil, everything. I even put fresh herbs in there. So it's everything for them to eat breakfast. And then, I let them know where the local supermarket is to stop and grab some things on the way. But most of the time they eat their breakfast, and then I don't see them the rest of the time, and they go out. But it's interesting because I was like, well, are they going to eat the eggs? And every single person has eat the eggs.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah, and it's really cute because the hens go up to the trailer and they, scratch around. And so I was like, oh, well, that's Peggy. She gave you an egg today, so they love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so your husband is a wedding planner, is that right? Or he does that in...
No,
sorry.
Yeah, my husband's in the dental industry. He's my second shooter for weddings. So he has a full-time job, plus he helps me, which is one of the reasons why we just kind of wanted to scale back on weddings a little bit. Gotcha. But my business partner is a wedding planner.
Okay. So you do wedding stuff. So my question to you is, and you have a 4-acre piece of land, why don't you host weddings,
My husband wants to. Okay.
I mean, because, that's all, because that's the big rage right now is, country weddings.
Yes. If I could, for your property, I think you guys should. Uh-huh. It's because for us, what we do, our business is really profitable. Mm-hmm. And so I want to still enjoy it and love it. And so I think if I was shooting a wedding and having the wedding on my property, or even, shooting a different wedding and having the wedding on my property, it would take away some of the joy of what we do as artists. And so by the time season ends at the end of October, we're done.
So what if you were no longer shoot it and you just hosted it? Or is that not interesting?
For us, it's parking. And that is one of the number one things that people have to think about for hosting is parking. Parking and septic.
Yep.
That would be a little bit of a challenge for us, but noise ordinances aren't a problem at all because we live in the country. But I've helped quite a few local farms, kind of get get to that point. Right. It's a lot. And some of the farms that have done it have chose not to do it. And some of them are just making so much money doing it. They just aren't even, doing their farm part of it anymore. Right. My number one advice is to have a planner help you because she's going to be your in-between and signing contracts and making sure that your vendors arrive on time. And there are a lot of logistics that go into a wedding. We shot a wedding in Ojai this weekend on a 100-acre black walnut farm.
Wow.
It was just beautiful. I mean, so beautiful. But it was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was, so there's logistics that go into planning an event like that can't be done without a planner.
So I have some questions about doing a wedding. So sure. You talked about it's renting the property for a wedding, but doesn't the bride and groom normally have their own wedding planner, or are you saying if you rent our property, you must use our partner who's a wedding planner?
Most ranches or farms start out saying, because they're new to the industry, so they'll say, oh, well, we can do it, we can help you. And then as they've done one or two weddings, then they make it mandatory that you must have a planner.
Now, can it be any planner or our planner?
Most weddings, so let's say it was your property. Right. You have to be able to let the bride choose whether she wants to have her planner or your planner.
Got it. Okay.
Some estates will say you have to use our wedding planner. And then what will happen though is they can bring in their wedding planner as day of, or a quote unquote stylist.
Got it.
And that's someone that helps the general decor of the wedding.
Right. Now our county is very big on weddings, and mainly they're done on like larger farms, and they actually have infrastructure and places like overhangs so people can be under a roof in case it rains. I mean, we have a 2-acre property. 2 acres is pretty big, but it's not like 100 acres. And we have, a farmhouse. It's a nice size, but it's not a big farmhouse. I mean, how big of a wedding could a place like that handle?
Well, in California, so I only shoot outdoor weddings. So I don't, and so most of the estates, or what we call an estate wedding, will be about 2 acres. And so most of the time, they shouldn't have to use your farmhouse at all. And that should be an additional rental where the bride and groom can stay there, or the catering staff can use your place. Right. And then you would have to rent some sort of high-end porta potties. Yep. Because most of the time the old estates can't handle the septic.
Ah, okay.
And then you also hire a valet company to kind of help with that, or a golf cart to kind of take people back and forth.
Got it.
Yeah, so sometimes farms will just rent out, they'll rent their place for the day for $3,500 to $4,500, and then on top of that, the bride and groom need to rent chairs, tables. They need to get $1 million insurance company or insurance policy, which it doesn't cost that much for them to get, but that's on the bride and groom. And then they need to, they have to hire a bartender that has a liquor license, so that way the bartending company covers that portion.
Right. And then is there a tent involved as well?
We don't have tents out here because it never rains. Right. But for you guys, tents are very expensive. A lot of the times you don't need them unless you're in wedding season. But yes, a tent would be an additional expense that the bride would have to incur herself. You guys wouldn't do that. That's her choice.
Got it. But
some estates will buy tables and chairs, and they'll include that in their rentals. Huh. That bumps your base price up.
Now, on 2 acres, how many people are we talking about? 100 people? Like, what's the...
Yeah. I would do 100 to 125.
Yep.
That's a great number.
Yep.
Anything more than that just gets a little bit unruly, but it's 80 people weddings are my absolute favorite. It's just a nice number, but the average wedding is 120 to 100.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the people isn't the problem. It's like you said, the parking. I mean, trying to get, parking. If you think 100 people, there's probably going to be 80 cars, That's gigantic.
Yeah, it's that. And then there are little logistics like you need to ask your catering company, okay, so are you guys going to clean up the trash at the end of the night? Or do you and Ryan do something like that where that then for an additional $300 fee, you clean that up. So I've worked with farms and estates that in the beginning, they're like, oh, no, we'll do all that. And then or the bride and groomers in charge of that. And trust me, at 10 o'clock at night, you don't want your bride and groom having to deal with cleaning up trash. I mean, that's just, So again, that's where your natural hospitality background will really kind of make you think like, okay, what would I want to do on my wedding day? I definitely don't want to be dealing with that.
So when they rent the whole day, and they rent for a wedding, and then it's also there for the after party, I guess? Yeah,
usually like this particular estate actually that we were at was rented through Airbnb last weekend.
Yep.
Because they don't have a wedding license in that county. So it had to be rented through Airbnb, and then they had to have a quote-unquote event.
And so on their Airbnb listing, is it like $3,500 for one night?
It was, I believe it was $10,000 for the weekend. I know.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this place was insanely gorgeous. I'll send you pictures if you want. I mean, it was how Central California is. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you guys should do it. I looked at your property. I stalked your property.
Yep.
I think it's great. The thing that you guys have to worry about is it's humid there and it's hot in the summer.
Yep.
So, it would be nice to have a pavilion for people to get out of the sun, and that's where a tent would work.
Yep.
Tents are expensive though.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, but that's the bride's prerogative.
Yeah.
What you would want to do is you'd probably want to work with a local wedding planner and a photographer and see if you can get a quote unquote styled shoot there so that you get some pictures of like a fake wedding. And most people will do it. I mean, we're doing it. We're doing one next month for the Viceroy Beverly Hills because they haven't done new weddings yet. And so we're providing their photography for them, and then we'll be on their vendors list. So that's kind of how the industry works. It's a lot of networking.
So there's just like some fake people that have on a tuxedo and a dress. And
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. The wedding wedding planner and the photographer will figure that all out, and then and you say to them, okay, well then you'll be our preferred planner. You'll be our preferred photographer.
So if you were to do this on Airbnb, I mean, or is that something that makes sense to you to, put a listing on Airbnb, it's with the property, but you just put a crazy price on it and include all the stuff we talked about?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You'd have to figure out, because you guys are like, what are you in the summer, $250 a night? Something like that?
Yep, correct.
So you're $250 a night. Yeah, you'd have to do some sort of you would just send a special offer.
Right.
But you'd look at comps in the area, and so in California, for just to rent a space, it's about $33,000.
Right.
Just to rent that space, and then obviously you could have it so that, like at this place this weekend, they had the bride and groom got to be there the whole weekend. So the family stayed there the first night, and they had the rehearsal dinner. And then the second night, everyone left, and just the bride and groom stayed there. Yep. It's so profitable. I mean, that's why the wedding industry, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we've got to do it.
I mean, it's interesting because we've had several people message us through Airbnb wanting to rent our place. They want to rent our place at our nightly rate and have a wedding there. And of course, we're like, yeah, that's not that's not going to happen. That's crazy.
No.
But I was wondering, what if we did... I wonder if you can do this on Airbnb. We have a listing we have now, but just have another listing for the same place, but that listing is in a different context, so it has a different price on it and availability,
Yeah, but, so it'll be fun for you guys. And the thing is that, so you only do 5 a year.
Yep.
Okay, so you do 5 a year times 3,000. Each year your business grows. Right. I mean, I remember when we first started doing it, I was so excited to shoot 5 weddings. Now, I mean, I just, we just won Photographers of the Year. We won Best of the Knot. We're on magazine covers. And now I'm talking about retiring.
Yeah.
But it's a lot, they say that people stay in the wedding industry about 10 years because of the amount of pressure.
Yeah. So if you're saying that they pay $3,000, that gives them one day, or is it a night and a day, or is it 2 days and a night?
Are you talking about for Airbnb?
A wedding, no. So if someone wanted to rent our place for a wedding.
Oh, That usually, okay, so at a regular venue that isn't on Airbnb, it's about 3,500, and they get to check in at about 3, and it goes to 9 or 10, depending on sound ordinances.
So it's just 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's good profit. Yep.
And I mean, but don't they need more time to like bring in all their people and cooking and heating food up, or does all that happen?
Yes, vendors get to be there. They get to start being there usually like around 11. Vendors will start arriving. So your food trucks, your caterers, your rental companies.
Right.
But the bride usually has access from 3 until 9 or 10.
Got it. Okay. And then you're saying as the venue that $3,000 or $3,500. We would have to give the toilets. I mean, we have to do the toilets, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. You can charge a little bit more. You'd have to look at some comps in the area,
right?
Or have your wedding planner do that. But probably because your septic system will not handle that.
Absolutely, right. I mean That's why, as we said, no way. But I was just wondering if we put that on them, like, if you need to have, 2 toilets for every, 30 people or something? I don't know how many toilets it takes,
Yeah, and I mean, you can do that. You could, and then once you get big, you can, purchase them.
Right.
Put something that you think, or you could, can just be part of your rental price.
Right. And these are the kind of toilets where a guy comes in a truck and pumps them out?
Yeah.
I mean, even the fancy ones? Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
And then the bride and groom, they have to pay for the valet, cleaners, and insurance. So that's on them and a wedding planner to figure out. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So you're just renting your property.
Yeah.
So that's why I mean, you could do an event, quote unquote, rental, because another, parties, anniversary parties, things like that are definitely something that would work for you guys. But the most profitable industry on the market is absolutely weddings, for sure.
Okay, so kind of to wrap this up, are there any suggestions that to anyone thinking of becoming a host, like anything that you did wrong or which that you had known about?
I definitely did my research, and that is something that is so important because I wanted to know. I looked at reviews too. I looked at the people that were in my area or people who were competition. I looked at the things that they said, and one thing was, comfy bed. And so, travel trailers are not known for having a comfortable bed. So I went out and I bought a Tempur-Pedic topper, plus a quilt topper, plus organic sheets, plus really great pillows. And because, again, just because someone stays there one night, there's nothing worse in the world than having a bad night's sleep.
Yeah.
So look at your comps, and as you said, don't go to Goodwill and just put any old bed together, because in the long run, you will get more rentals from people. And the other thing that I wish I would have done sooner is, again, I need to have business cards, because people ask for them because they say, oh, I want to send my friends to this place. Or I want to send my family, or can we all come, and so I need to be better prepared with that. That have some sort of landing page for your property.
I will put a link on this blog post. We actually like this one online company, and we just get postcards, and they're super cheap, and they're color postcards, and they look nice, and we put them in there so people just want to take them and give them away or whatever, and people do take them, so I think it's smart.
Yeah, and a friend of mine just recently made me a sign, a really big turquoise sign that says Equinox Farms right at the end of our driveway, because we do live in the country, and it's hard for people. Sometimes your GPS stops, and so that's advice for people too, though, is think about, do people have trouble finding your place? And the other thing that I had to get used to is people saying that they would be checking in at 3 and then they don't get there until 9. And because it is on my property, so I've had to develop a little system so that I don't have to stay up and show them the trailer and certain tips and tricks about it, because it is a trailer, so some things work differently. So definitely having, a guide sheet for everyone so they know what to do when they get there.
Okay, well, I will put a link to your place so people can check it out, because I think the photos is what really kind of brings all this to a life. But I really want to thank you for reaching out and talking to us today.
Oh, well, thank you for everything that you do, because it really did help me. And a friend of mine has another listing here in Fallbrook, and she listens to your show too. And we always joke about the funny things that people do leave.
Yeah.
It's definitely true,
Okay. Thanks a lot, Tricia.
All right. It was great to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.